All right, Aaron, you're up to bat. Go ahead whenever you're ready, man.
Okay. So we have a clear white wine, no evidence of gas or sediment. The wine is a kind of white gold color. There is a subtle water band. You have a medium viscosity moving into the nose. The wine is clean, sound. The wine is youthful. I'm getting kind of a floral note to the wine, blossom, kind of white flowers. A little bit of kind of like a subtle like jasmine note, like kind of a rose petal, violet characteristic. Getting kind of a pear, kind of a yellow pear or green pear. A little bit of a lot of stone fruits here, kind of a peach, like a white peach. A little bit of a nectarine quality to the wine, kind of an orange blossom. Maybe like a key lime with this. Not getting a lot of earth characteristics with this wine. I'm getting a little bit of a kind of like a wet rock characteristic, but more kind of floral notes with it. Not getting any indications of oak use with the wine at the moment. I'm not really getting an indication of lees thus far, but I'll move into the palate. The wine is dry. High acid, um, medium medium minus body, medium body, um, medium alcohol, um, medium finish, medium complexity. Um, on the palate, I'm getting kind of tartar fruits. It definitely I get to that key lime kind of citrus note to it. Um, a little bit of a like kind of a grapefruit note to it. A little bit of a orange note to the wine. A lot of citrus. Um, it's got a fair amount of acid to it. I'm getting a little bit of phenolic bitterness on my gums here with this. Um, I'm not getting any indications of oak on the palate. The wine does have a little bit of mid palate to it, so potentially a little. Maybe I retract my lees. There might be a little bit of lees use, or maybe just a touch of mallow or something to kind of. It does have a little bit of kind of a soft dryness on the mid palate. Maybe some lees. I wouldn't say mal malactic conversion with this. Um, I'm getting some of those floral notes on the palate. The wine does have a little bit of a kind of a yogurty tartness to it, so that's a little more of that indication of maybe lees to me as well. Um, I'm thinking that this wine is maybe coming from a little cooler climate just because of the higher acid of the wine, the tart fruit characteristics from the wine. Um, Moving into initial conclusions, I'm thinking potentially Sauvignon Blanc with this wine. Um, Potentially a cool climate Chardonnay, something like maybe like a Chablis or something like that. Um, and then maybe um, maybe something like a Gruner with this as well, Gruner Veltliner. Um, I could also potentially see Albarino with this as well. But so I think that this is a old world wine. I think possible countries of origin: France, um, Austria, or Spain. But I think that this wine is coming from France. I think that this is a Sancerre coming from the Loire Valley. I think that this is a 2018 Sancerre from the Loire Valley. I think kind of some of those floral notes, higher acid, but I'm not getting a lot of that parasinic kind of green pepper notes or anything like that to bring me into New Zealand or something along those lines. So that's my call.
Cool, cool. So stops you right over 5.5 minutes. So great timeline. Excuse the wine community. Welcome everybody. Didn't have my corkscrew, so okay. So Aaron, this is a fun game to play now. Taste the two or smell the two wines next to each other.
I'm smelling them. Yeah. What's interesting is I'm not getting the Gewürztraminer is just like so robust
Yes,
compared to this. And
oh
so,
yeah.
I saw the bottle shape more than anything when you pulled out the bottle, but so I'm thinking,
I
oh
knew you did.
gosh, I'm thinking, oh man, it's dry Riesling from Australia or something like that. But I don't honestly believe that it is that because it's not, I wouldn't say it's overtly aromatic. So that's where I'm struggling. So
Yeah,
maybe
I
it's
would
a
say
Pinot Gris, but I'm purely going off of bottle shape here now, just because I'm embarrassed about what I'm
um,
thinking here. Another call, though, actually, just kind of in moving through this. Let's just go theory here versus kind of playing through things. Might be something along the lines of like a Melon de Bourgogne. So Muscadet. Yeah, so that's something else that I would maybe throw into the hat, but I don't know. What do we
okay,
have,
we've now
man?
got five. Now we've now got five potential grape varieties. But I think what's going on is it's kind of like that triangle of like potentially neutral high acid whites, right? Is
Right.
kind of what I'm getting to. So Muscadet, at least for me, there's just not enough of that kind of like that leesy character I would expect, which I think would, remember you called the body medium and initially medium minus, right? Now I would just expect the body to be a little bit more elevated, or a little weightier if we're going with that lees contact. So this wine, I would agree. Something that would throw me off of this wine is that this wine is not overly aromatic, but this is actually a Riesling from Alsace, dry Riesling, um, and young vintage. It's actually 2019, which wake up, it's 2021 now.
Right.
That, at least for me, that's what I'm thinking. But um, yeah, so I think you said it best is that
I think the acid is what would give this away as Riesling. Is it's like
yeah.
screaming acid.
Also, I think sometimes even with like a medium plus acid wine, you have to maybe let it sit for a little bit to judge. I mean, this is acid from start to finish, and I think just since I started talking, I've swallowed 4 times because my mouth is watering that much,
Right.
right? And that's definitely that acid profile, um, that I think. While some of the other things wouldn't get you to this point, the acid is like boom. This is what it almost has to be this, right?
The other thing too that maybe I guess I would argue too is that I said it's not overly aromatic, but maybe it's not overly aromatic in the fact that it's very clean and it's a young Riesling, so it makes sense. I did actually get a fair. If you think about what I called, actually, I called a fair amount of different uh, you know, kind of bouquet floral aspects to the wine.
100%.
So I said that there were kind of rose petal, that it had this
Well,
floral characteristic to it. You know,
I
there
got
were
it for you. So I thought this was kind of interesting. You called white flower, orange blossom, jasmine, and rose petal, and then I think violet. So you called
Mhm.
like every single color of flower,
Right.
uh, pretty much in those.
And even too, and then I recall that I was saying different citrus notes as well as some stone fruits. So I said, I think pear, yellow, and green, as well as orange and kind of like an orange blossom,
And
nectarine. So
key
that
lime,
so it did actually have a lot. You know, if I have to really think about the aromatics of the wine, fairly aromatic. You know,
right,
definitely
yeah,
probably too aromatic to be Chablis, right?
right, right. And um, definitely like a very like I always think of when I'm getting into Riesling, I'm thinking like terpene driven wine, right? So like all of those, maybe not over, just like you're saying, maybe not overly powerful, but so many different of those small notes and such a good wide range. But yeah, you called key lime on your nose and on your palate. You called general citrus. You called grapefruit. You called orange. So yeah, I mean, I think in tasting you were definitely there. I mean, for me, I don't know if I would have gotten away from Sauvignon Blanc either, but I think that it's so funny because I'm tasting in kind of like shapes of waves right now. But you know, this is such just a volatile like acidity, and Riesling hits that high acidity, and I feel like, or excuse me, Sauvignon Blanc, but especially from like the Sancerre, it hits that level, but then it's usually tapered off with something, right? It's a little more round in the acid profile instead of just like skyrocket high, you know?
The other thing too that I would argue is that I think even if it doesn't have that jalapeno or kind of green pepper note like maybe some New Zealand Sauvignon Blancs, Sancerre generally to some extent might have like a grassy kind of herbal note to it that is, you know, that this is pretty clean, like fruit aromatics. Yeah, so
Yeah, I
it's
think it's
funny
also
because yeah, I kind of I wanted to go Riesling, but I was like, ah, it's not high aromatics, you know.
yeah,
So there
definitely.
you
And
go. There again, going back to kind of listening to your own calls, and when you're making your final conclusion, actually listening to, okay, what was the wine telling you versus what's your head telling you that you want it to be versus
yeah,
what the your calls and the wine itself are actually telling you what it is. You know, I think it's
yeah.
always
And I think when I asked you to smell them side by side really quick, the one thing that I get, and it's just like my key indicator, my marker for whenever Riesling is in my glass, and I really get it mostly when I go away from when I go back to the Gewürz, and then I come back to the Riesling. I definitely get like that fresh cut rubber hose kind of plasticky petrol smell, and that's like my biggest indicator for Riesling. But I would say overall, the Riesling, it's definitely reductive in style, right? It's not like super, like you're saying, it's not super bouquet and kind of all over the place
yeah, definitely.
in terms of those
Well, and
aromatics.
it's very interesting too.
Very
I mean, I
reductive.
wish we've got to get a better system of showing the wines, but the wines in the glass, the colors of the two wines, it's you can. I mean, like I said, it may be varietal, but I would venture to guess that the Gewürztraminer was made with a little bit of an oxidative wine production, and the Riesling is 100% reductive. I mean, it is, you know, a white gold almost kind of um, yeah, like platinum color.
Right, right. And the converts too is like there has to be a combination of botrytis and oxidation on this because for 2018 showing this dark gold,
Mhm.
um, it's got to be a combination. I think of both of those two.
Really cool to have two Alsatian wines next to each other, two different varietals. What was the producer on that, Hayden?
Hold on 1 second here. Also, how funny that uh we both called Loire Valley wines and they're both Alsatian.
Right.
This is Brickle Jung.
Beautiful. Yeah, really delicious. Wonderful wines. Um,
Aaron, what would you pair with this wine?
um, I think that I want something I want something with some fat to cut that acidity, because I really love dry Riesling actually. But I think sitting out on a patio of a little French bistro and ordering a leg of duck confit and drinking a glass of this, and you got that rich fattiness kind of coating your palate, and you wash it away with this, and then that gives it some of that
Yeah,
fruit characteristic, and that sounds pretty good to me. Yeah, maybe dip some frites and some Dijon mustard with that, and I think I'd be doing okay.
I love that. Yeah, definitely like that juxtaposition with a little fat to cut that acid and vice versa. I think that plays super well. Cool. Well, another insightful tasting, and nothing like getting punched in the face, and uh, and saying what it is.
With the acid and the wines.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. But I will say, I think calls are super great, and I think the biggest takeaway, like you said, from this tasting for both of us is don't make the wine something it's not. Right? What's in
I
the
do it
glass
all the time.
all the time, all the time. It's like, oh, gold, oh, deep gold color, got to be Sauvignon, But again, once you can, and that's why I think I took a little more time today to just stop, step back, try to broad scope it out, and I totally mess it up still. So,
And quick side note too, I think that's why it's nice to write. We each take notes on each other, watching what the other person's doing, being able to, and then too, it helps me as a taster to write your notes, so that I'm sitting there highlighting things, kind of connecting the dots myself, and I think it makes me a better taster. So hopefully, the next time when I'm verbally doing it, I'm connecting those dots a little better for myself versus letting my mind tell me what I think I want it to be versus the glass telling me what it actually is. And I think that's
100%,
the biggest
100%.
takeaway from today, right?
Yeah,
Trust the glass, trust your knowledge of your theory, but let the glass tell you versus your mind tell the glass what it is.
100%, 100%. Well, on that note, I'll cheers to that, and
Chin chin.
yeah, cheers.